the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up.
Nice to meet you, Kevin. What do we got here? What are we doing for a snack?
What am I doing? I gotta lose 10 pounds, so this is
You look
turkey.
good.
Turkey.
You look a pretty good, pal, no?
I gotta lose 10. I had partial knee replacement surgery in last June, and I put on 20 pounds. And I've lost 10 back. I got another 10 to go.
You can't tell on camera if it's any consolation.
Always go. Wait till you're my age.
So the book is out.
Yes.
I'm Keith Hernandez, very appropriately named. I feel like that really became your mantra, I'd say. You can eat while we do it. We're pretty lax, so don't worry about it. I mean, obviously the Seinfeld appearance has more legs than I think any small cameo type of appearance in television history.
Yes.
To the point that, we now have the book being titled that. So it's got to be a very strange wrinkle in your life, I'd imagine.
Oh, sure. I mean, it did. It just was an iconic episode, iconic show. I had no idea. I don't watch primetime to this day. And for baseball players who play night games, I was a year and a half in retirement. And I got the call, ironically, from my agent, Scott Boras, who I didn't need anymore. I hadn't talked to in a year and a half. I was retired.
See you later, Scott. I'm done.
And he said, this episode, this show, Seinfeld, they want you to come and do something for them. And I said, well, I never heard of it. And he goes, well...
Wait a minute. I mean, it was early on, but you had never heard of Seinfeld.
I don't watch any primetime. And at that point, the show was going into its third year, I think. And it hadn't really taken off. And Scott said, they'll give you $15,000. They'll fly you out first class, and a week in LA. He goes, you can't beat that. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. They FedEx to me overnight for Saturday delivery. I had to be in the studio for rehearsal on Monday. They FedEx for Saturday. I got it Saturday the script, and I'm going through the script, and I'm going, oh my God, I got a lot of lines.
It's not just a bit role, yeah.
So Marsha Mason is an old friend of mine from New York, and a terrific actress. I called her. She was living in Taos, or Santa Fe, I forget. And I said, Marsha, I'm in over my head here. I never acted, and I never had any desire to act. And she says, well, just do line 1, then do line 1, line 2, then line 1, line 2, line 3, and make sure before you go to bed, you do it over again. So you go. It'll linger in your mind and in your sleep, and then get up in the morning and do it again, then go. So I was petrified the whole week doing that show, but it was a great experience, and I guess I passed the bar. I was just playing myself.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I mean, it's not necessarily acting when you're just being yourself, taking girls out on dates and walking around with a shit ton of swagger.
Not just girls.
The girl.
Elaine.
It's a big difference. And really, no matter how many lines you had to memorize, there's one that matters, and that's the I'm Keith Hernandez. I mean, that's stuck, right?
That was, we're in studio on the set, and we were doing the car scene, the kissing scene. And I was just sitting in the car, passenger side, driver's side. And Larry David had a boom over our head. And Larry said, let's just do the I'm Keith Hernandez line, because it's going to be a voiceover. And let's just do it now before we do the scene. So I went to Larry and I went, well, how do you want me to say it? I go, I don't know how to say it. And I go, can you tell me how you want to do it?
That can be delivered.
Have the tape rolling, and I'll mimic you. So Larry said, I'm Keith Hernandez. So I just did it real quick. It was one take.
One and done. I love it.
It went on to the kissing scene, which is where I wanted to go.
Have you ever had a real life I'm Keith Hernandez moment on a date, strangely nervous, not sure what's going on, and you actually had that thought in your mind? Or in any walk of life?
No, I never have. When I was younger, before, I was always a little shy of girls in my early 20s. It took me till around 20. It took me till around 25, 26 to finally
really
get over a little bit of shyness. Yeah, I was.
At what point in your career are you at? 25, 26? Yeah, I was going to say.
So that must be my I'm Keith Hernandez moment.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine once you win the MVP, the nerves of talking to girls goes away, huh?
Well, that was the case. It became I think it was all part of the growing process too.
Yeah.
And, but that's when I became a different person after.
After that.
I'm not the same person I was when I was 20 and 25. I became an entirely different person. I got rid of all that teenage growing up pains.
I feel like you probably have many different kind of eras of your life. I mean,
Yes.
with becoming a ball player, becoming an MVP, the Cardinals era, and then into the New York era, and now eventually, much later down the road, this broadcasting time. So I feel like there's just many different Keith Hernandezes. What would you say would be your favorite era of Keith?
Oh, I wouldn't want to be in my 20s ever again. That's for sure. It was
Really?
A lot of anxiety.
I mean, that's the bulk of your ball career, though, no?
I played till I was 37.
Yeah, but I mean, your 20s, just your prime. It's when you're winning MVPs.
It was a lot of. I didn't really burst on the scene. I had a lot of struggles early in my. I was in the big leagues when I was 20.
Yeah.
So, I was 2.5 years out of high school, and those were difficult times. And like I said, I was a different person then. I would never want to go. My 30s, I loved my 30s. I loved my 40s. Those were my prime years. And then when I got in my 50s was fine, but I just had a lot of aches and pains from playing. And 60's daunting. I'll be 65 in October. And if you think about it, in 15 years, I'm going to be 80. That's daunting.
It's a big number.
It is.
You don't look a day past like 50, pal. I mean, you're looking great.
Well,
that's what matters. Who cares what the number on your ID says? It's about how you look, right?
Well, I try to stay in shape. I didn't become a couch potato. I've had back surgery. I've had knee replacement on my right knee. I'm going to have to get hip. These are all baseball related, wear and tear. So there isn't a day that I don't have discomfort, but I just refuse to become sedentary and sit. That's the worst thing you can do. So I can't run anymore.
I can attest.
Yeah, I used to run. I love to run. I miss running. I can't do that anymore. So
Yeah.
I get in the elliptical. I do a lot of cardio to get the heart pumping and just try to stay positive and youthful.
Is that what you think played a big part in your career, being good on the diamond? By the way, before we forget, my mother has demanded that I tell you that she read If at First, and she just wanted me. She was like, if you don't tell Keith that I read his book, I'm gonna kill you. She's a maniac. Oh, she also wanted me to tell you that she popped a blood vessel in her chest screaming Game 6 in the World Series.
God, it's not worth it.
She was screaming so loud. So in my family, it's weird. My mom is like the real diehard Mets fan. My dad's not as much of a sports fan. He's more of mechanics and science and that kind of guy shit. But my mom is the maniac baseball fan, and so she was watching the game, and my dad came running into the room thinking that someone had broken in and was trying to murder her. And it's like, nope, it was just Bill Buckner.
Oh, the ball went through his leg on that one.
It was
That's
just
when she
Bill.
lost control.
Yep.
Okay, so it was a euphoric moment.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
then
it was.
she's forgiven.
And I was 1. I was born in '85, and so my great fear is that that is going to be the Mets World Series in my lifetime. Because technically it occurred during my life, so I can't even say, well, they've never won during my lifetime, so I'm due.
They got back twice.
Yep, they got back twice
Didn't
and they lost in heartbreaking fashion. One being to the Yankees, and the other being with the Royals, where they led for like 90% of the series and somehow still lose in 5 games. So even those trips back to me were heartbreak in a way. So that's my great fear as being a Mets fan.
Okay.
I'm never gonna get it again.
Okay, well, it might happen. It's gonna happen.
You think? You're just saying that because
maybe
you had
not
to say
in
that?
my lifetime.
Well, right now it's kind of an awkward situation. I mean, what would you say? You've been a part of many teams, and unfortunately with the Mets, there's a lot of heartbreak, disappointment. Let's say not living up to potential. And I mean, obviously the '80s, the '86 team won, but I think everybody on that team says they probably should have won more, that they were primed to go back and potentially win multiple. Then you had the Generation K bust, and now you have this with the so-called 5 aces that's kind of, seemingly not panning out. As a baseball guy, as a Mets guy, what would you say is what kind of hits you the hardest?
What kind of hits me presently?
Well, what were those '80s teams?
'87 is the year that bothers me the most, because in '84 we had a magical year. Went from perennial last place, we win 90 games, and in my first full season there, and we lose to the Cubs. They were a better team. We were young. we didn't have Gary Carter then, the final piece.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, all the young players that became stars were just learning. It was a great baptism for them as far as a stretch run. And then 85, we win 98 games when we go home.
Yeah.
Cardinals win 102. Nothing wrong with that season. And then 86, we had the blowout year. We win it all. And then 87, we know we're going to battle the Cardinals again. And Doc goes into the rehab. And we don't have him for the first month. He misses 5 starts. Roger McDowell comes down with appendicitis and has to get emergency surgery a week before we break camp. We don't have Roger the first month of the season. At every point in the year, we lost one of our starting 5. Sid, Ojeda, of course Doc. Darling was our best pitcher, Ron, down the stretch. On the best I've ever seen him pitch. And he's pitching the big game, the second game of series against the Cardinals in early September. We win the first game. And we win this game, we go into first place by a half. Ron's winning 4-0 in the 6th or something like that. Goes down the bend over to pick up a bunt by Vince Coleman and tears a ligament in his throwing thumb. We lose him for the rest of the year. That would have been, without those, Cardinals had their share of injuries too, but if we had those guys, we'd have won 100 games that year. We'd have won our division. I don't know what would have happened after. And then in '88, we win 100 games, win our division, lose to the Dodgers.
Yep.
So it would have been 3 years in a row where we were in the playoffs, whether we had won the World Series or not, who knows?
Right.
And no one would be talking about this. So 87 just sticks in my craw. It just, I don't even like to
Just
talk
eats
about
at
it.
you. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to bring up.
No, that's all right.
memories. I mean, as a fan, I know, I mean, when you're snake bitten by injuries and a couple guys don't meet their potential, and all of a sudden, the window seemed wide open, and then it's slammed shut. It's a very Mets feeling, unfortunately, for many of the fans.
I have a great appreciation for Met fans now. I didn't realize when I played because we were so good.
Yeah.
And it really was the greatest era of Met baseball.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We dominated. We had the 80s team was always in the hunt. But when I went in the booth, a lot of down years. I'm talking with my mouth full.
No, don't worry about it. We're pretty laid back.
The Mets have had a lot of frustration. Met fans. And I can understand their neurosis. The Let's Go Mets. But they are diehards out there.
That's the thing, and I don't think any other fans really understand it. Because like you said, we have been back to the World Series, and it's not like it's totally bleak, but with the Yankees across town and some of the disappointment we've seen, like it's a tough life as a Mets fan, and we do keep coming back for more. Sometimes I wonder why. It's pretty sick, but it's funny that you didn't realize that until you were in the booth. I guess, like you said, when you're good, times everything's good. It's gravy.
Piazza took them to the World Series, and they get beat badly by the Yankees, and then
even that 06 year is what haunts me. The way you talk about 87, as if I'm on the team here, but 2006 to me was.
06,
I mean, they were the better. They were the better team than anybody in that left in the playoffs. And
in the 07, it was oh my God, that to me is worse.
That was disgusting.
At least they got the postseason
Right.
in 06.
I firmly believe had they won that, had they just even squeaked into the playoffs, I think David Wright gets the MVP instead of Jimmy Rollins. I think they make some noise in the playoffs, and I think the trajectory of the franchise is totally different. I think everything would have been wildly different had they just, if the season was 161 instead of 162 and they made the playoffs, the whole history I think would be different. But
I feel like I'm your psychiatrist.
You are. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. The 80s teams, though, that you mentioned were, forget about just one of the best eras of Mets baseball. This is one of the best eras of sports history, period, I feel like. I don't think there's ever a team that had, let's call it the character and the...
We had the New York grit.
Yeah.
We set the tone with Mookie, Lenny, and Wally at the top of the order. It kind of set the gritty New York tone. I think that's why I think Met fans and New Yorkers loved our team, because we played hard. We got dirty.
It represented New York. It really did.
What
do you think of the moniker, like the title, the book of the bad guys who won?
I didn't. I'm not in that book. I when I heard about the title, I said I know what he's going to write about in this book, and I'm not going to be a part of it. I am not. They don't have one quote from me in that book. I refuse to talk with the author.
So you don't like to kind of glorify some of the
No, I don't like the
stories
bad
and
guys. We weren't the bad guys.
Right. Well, that's what I asked.
I know
mean,
what they're saying.
Yeah. I feel
that-
like it's in an endearing way. You thought it was more
Yeah, but
critical.
in New York, everything gets amplified and magnified. I mean, I played for 17 teams and 8 Cardinal teams, and no team was any different. I was just talking to Ray Knight the other day, not the other day, when we were in Washington in April, and I said, I get tired of all this, talk. And Daryl opened his mouth again and said, bragging about how everybody partied, and not everybody partied.
Mm-hmm.
And that team was no different than any other team I played on. You got night games, you got 25 players on the road, going out after a night game, you go home, what are you going to do? Go back to the hotel room, you're still geared up from the game, you got to loosen up somewhere, go to the hotel bar, you meet, you congregate, things happen. So I'm getting a little tired of that. So I just want to make that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it probably was not all that different, but more importantly, even if it was, there's no reason to keep talking about it.
Well,
it's like,
right. It's okay.
It's kind of like what happens behind closed doors. What happens to the team stays in the team. I feel like it's kind of violating the code of it all, if especially when it's done in such a, I feel like Lenny had some moments as well with his books where it's.
Oh well, Lenny was a good player, boy. Good postseason player too.
Yeah, nails, man. But it is a cast of characters. I'll say that.
We were a cast of characters. We had fun in that '86 season. We won 54 games at home and 54 games on the road. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, wow.
Identical records home and away. We played good on the road. We played well. We won 108 games.
You're good everywhere. Yeah, Jesus, I can't even imagine a team like that. That's wild. What would you say, though, is the better team you've ever been a part of? 108 win Mets or the Gary Keith-Ron tandem in the booth? Because let me tell you something, my man, that is a hell of a broadcast team.
Well, Gary's the all-star in the booth. I mean, I think he makes Ron and I shine. He's the professional. Ron and I are ex-players, and we have no training. We're the analysts, and it's Gary's job to weave us in and out of the broadcast, and he's like the maestro.
You're selling yourself short, though, because there are plenty of ex-athletes who try to do what you do, whether it's in the booth or just analysts behind the table, and they're not good at it. There's plenty of guys who think they can just skate by on having been players. You guys are very good at what you do.
Well, I appreciate that. We try and do our best. We know the game. I think what makes it good is the fact that Ronnie's a pitcher and I'm a hitter, so we have two people with expertise on both aspects of the game.
And I think the way you guys kind of approach the game is a little different. I feel like you're kind of much more the feel of it and just the game, and Keith is much more, I think, stats and analytical in a way. I think it's just the perfect, yin and yang that kind of goes together. That's what baseball is.
It's hard to put a group of 3 guys in the booth and make it work. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It takes a good play-by-play guy to do it, number one. And, like I say, it's just, all I'm doing is observing.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the honesty, too, in which you do a broadcast where, there are times, especially with, like, some of those down years where Mets fans are sitting there rubbing their head going, what the fuck are they doing? And you kind of convey that, whether it's a sloppy play in the field or whatever it may be, you're a straight shooter. You tell it like it is, and I think a lot of broadcasts lack that.
Well, we have the we have ownership that from day one when we started up on SNY, back in 06, I believe. Fred Wilpon came to us and said, we don't want a homer broadcast. We want an honest broadcast. And we have never been censored in that booth by ownership. So on all the years, we've been 13th year now. So a lot of it credit has to be with the Wilpons. I know over there in Yankee Land, they are watched over, and they kind of have to toe the line a little bit, the company line.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have that, but I think that we're very measured. I don't think we beat up on anybody. As long as someone's trying, people are going to make mistakes. Not every player is a Willie Mays. Not every player, every pitcher is a Clayton Kershaw. There's a lot of players are average players, and they're limited in their capabilities, and you just got to keep that in mind. As long as they're giving it 100%, and don't make mental errors where they fall asleep, like forget the count or forget how many outs
but
there
there's
are.
there's a good bit of that sometimes with some of these Mets teams, and I feel like you tackle it well. You really represent the fan well in a way, which I think is much appreciated in the booth. Is there ever any competition? Like, do you ever think of the Yankee broadcast or another broadcast team and treat it the way you would sports, or is it just?
Well, we don't see the broadcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. When the Yankees are playing, usually at the same time we
Right,
are.
right.
And the broadcast in Chicago, the Cubs, is excellent. Kruko and Kuiper with the Giants is excellent. I don't feel that we're in a competition where we're vying for number one. We're vying for the gold medal.
Well, that's because you got number one locked down and everyone's vying for second
Well,
place, pal.
you'd be surprised. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that would disagree with that in Chicago and in San Francisco, but it doesn't matter. We just do what we do, and that's most important. Try to bring the best podcast we can to our New York Met fan base and the New York audience.
And I think what you were saying about the Mets fan is, we like strangely root for the broadcasts. Like, we're very passionate and loyal to like the Gary, Keith, Ron. Maybe it's because there hasn't always been as good of a product on the field as we would like, so we gotta rep the booth. But you'll find Mets fans in a bar arguing, who's better, Michael Kay or Gary Cohn? Like this, more like the same way they talk about sports.
Oh,
It's a very. I mean, we almost get made fun of for it. It's like, why do you guys care so much about the booth? But
that's
it's like
Yankee Met thing, and that's a New York thing.
Yeah.
So I've never seen a town be so polarized when it comes to their baseball teams.
Did you not like? I mean, especially I guess in the '80s, there really was no.
No, we were aware of it.
No
We were aware. Yankees were a good team in the '80s with Matt Mattingly and Winfield, and they just never got there. And
but did you, as a player, ever? Yeah, did you ever?
Did we relish that we took them off the back page? Sure, but we also were there to win. That was the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been great if they were winning. If they had won 108 games with us, I would have loved to have had a Subway Series.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. I mean, the Subway Series in 2000 was just as good as that Mets team was. They were just overmatched. There was really no other outcome possible there. But if the Mets were to ever win a Subway Series, Keith, I mean, that would be it for me. I would go out right then and there. It doesn't get any better. That would be peaking for me.
Well, I can't help you out anymore. I'm too old.
Unfortunately, sometimes I really think you could. I'm like, give Keith a bat, let him get in there. Sometimes when I see, do you feel it the old school versus new school way of I feel you hear it in the broadcast all the time, especially with the shift and the way people are hitting now. I feel like there's a part of you that's like, oh my God, if these guys could just go the other way or lay down a bunt properly or manage to just handle the bat a little bit better. Do you feel you get frustrated with the new school way?
There's been some changes in the game. There's some things I like in the new game, and there's some things that are missing that I were around in our day that I think add to the excitement of the game. And I miss that. I miss a guy throwing 9 innings, getting a complete game. I miss the hit and run, which is a lost art. There's not enough speed as there was in our day. There was more speed, more stolen bases. The closers would go sometimes 3 innings. They'd come in with men on base, Gossage and Bruce Sutter, Raleigh Fingers. They would come in the 8th inning with bases loaded, 1 out. You have to
get the
shut
job
the
done.
door.
Yeah.
Now they start an inning, and I understand that because it's a lot of it's coming in full effort after you just warmed up. You can't make a mistake. You got to come out with guns blazing on the first pitch when the game's on the line and men on base. Much easier to have a save
clean
with 1 clean inning, no one on base.
Yeah,
It doesn't have the same significance.
Yeah, I mean that's not when you need them. It's like you need somebody when you're in a jam late in the game, and that's when you'd like to see one of your best step up. But it's just not the way they seem to manage the game anymore.
But there's some good things in the game.
Yeah, what would you say is what do you like about the new age game?
What would I say?
What answer can I come up with here?
Well, I don't like all the home runs that much. So much emphasis on home runs. I do think that the game is kind of the pendulum swinging back a little bit. I like the way the Mets have played this year. I like the way they take the extra base. Last year was so boring. We struck out a lot. We tied the league in home runs.
Yeah, feast or famine.
And we were one base at a time. We didn't have a lot of speed. And this team doesn't have a lot of speed now. But to me, speed is something that puts pressure on the defense. And I think we've gotten away from that a little bit in the game. Too much. The old American League way of ball in the 50s and 60s was like Earl Weaver, get a couple men on base, wait for the 3-run home run. To me, strikeouts, walks, and a home run are the 3 boringest things in baseball. No action.
I feel that. I got you. Do you think? Do you follow baseball or the Mets? Like, what would you say you?
Do I follow baseball?
You know, like
better question would be: would I follow baseball if I wasn't in the booth?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
You think you'd just be done with it?
When I'm done doing this, I won't watch a baseball game again.
Really?
I'll be done.
Just sick of it?
I'm not sick of it. I'm not going to sit down for over 3 hours and watch a ball game. I got better things to do. Like go out to dinner.
There you go.
With the regular people, and which is usually around the first, second, or third inning. You know, we're in the booth. People are having dinner. I like having on my off days having dinner at a normal hour. You know, when I work, I got to have dinner at
it's a strange life.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's my dinner. That's the night games. That's the way it was when I played too.
Yeah, you've been doing this a long time, pal. You've been living that weird
off
hours. You ever just walk in the booth and you see Ron's face for like the billionth time and you're just like, God damn it, Ron, I'm sick of seeing you.
No.
I mean, you guys have been doing this together a long time.
We have 6 months off. We get away from each other.
Yeah, it's true.
So we're actually, it's funny that when we come back and we do our first game, and Greg Ticker's our producer, and we'll do our first spring training game with 3 in the booth, which is always the first game.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen each other. We never rehearse.
Right, no.
The game has its own, writes its own script. Every game is different. And Greg will come in after the game and goes, it's like you guys never left the booth. You guys, so we have meshed so well, and we meshed so quickly. You know, Gary never done any TV.
Right.
I don't think, not baseball TV, I know that. And he was a radio guy.
Right. It's
So
great
it was
radio
a
guy.
new field for him. Ron had just done 1 year in Washington, all the games in Washington, only 1 year under his belt.
No, I don't think I realized that. Well.
And I was really the one with the most experience in the booth, and I was only doing with MSG. I was doing like 30, 40, 50 games a year,
Mm-hmm.
not much. But we all, when we got
Just clicked.
the nerves off and we got used to each other, there's no, Gary always said, there's no egos in the booth. No one wants to hog the mic. We all give each other space. We all realize that we need each other. That every little component of our broadcast makes the broadcast what it is. Ronnie's input, my input, Gary's, the truck, the guys in the truck that are with the videotape, the producers and the directors.
Stevie Gelbs.
With Gelbsy down there, that's true. We had Kevin for such a long time. Look where he went.
Yeah.
His
Superstar.
career took off,
Yeah.
and we got Gelbs now, and that he fit right in. So.
And now, let me tell you, there is one ego. There's one superstar these days, and that's Haji.
Haji
is he is taken on a life of its own. I mean, the 7 line with the big cutout. You're tweeting about him. I feel like he's almost our good luck charm. Hopefully, maybe in a way, if we can get some wins under our belt. Yeah.
He's been with me. He's 15 years old. I've had him for a very long time. And Haji's been with me for 15 years. I can't have a dog. I travel too much. I'm not married.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up with cats and dogs. So Haji's my best buddy. And I didn't know that you could videotape when I started tweeting. And someone told me, you can do videos. So I did that video. I decided my first video was the video that went viral, was getting the paper in the morning. And that was, we came back from San Diego and off that road trip, and I didn't get home till 4:30 in the morning. We landed around 2:30, and I didn't get to bed till about 4:30, and I woke up at 11:30, and I always take him out with me most of the time for the paper, just to get a little air, and he likes to look around. And so I decided to do the video, and I had no idea it was going to go
What was going to
viral
happen?
like it did.
Yep.
So that took my Twitter up to where I'm at now, over 70,000 followers, and I enjoy. I like to write. I like Twitter better than Instagram. Everybody's going to Instagram.
I know. You know what it is? People who are clever and have something to say and got something to write, they want to go to Twitter. That's where guys like me and you live. Instagram is easy. Just put up a picture, whatever.
People like the pictures, but I've always liked. I took typing in high school for one year, and I can type, and so I've always liked to write. So I prefer Twitter. And I like engaging with the fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fun, and I mean, you are, when I heard you were on Twitter, I was like, oh my God, here we go. Because there's one guy out there who we want more access to your thoughts and whatnot. It's you. So we're almost pulling up here, so I want to make sure the book is out. I'm Keith Hernandez.
You got it. It's in second printing now. After the first day, we went to second print.
Wow.
So I'm excited about that.
Very cool. That's a cool accomplishment to have under the belt, amongst everything else you've got. MVPs, World Series titles, about 1 billion Gold Gloves, and it's have you guys won Emmys? You probably won Emmys too, right?
I have 3.
Yeah, so I mean,
can't believe that.
Just
That's
keep
amazing.
racking up the hardware. We really appreciate the time, and good luck with the rest of the promo.
Right. Well, we got to say, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
And you got to be loyal to the orange and blue.
Gotta believe. You gotta believe, sir. Really, thank you very much, Keith. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right, guys.